MegaPodTastic.
Good morning, MegaPodlings. It's Krazy Joe, and guess what? We're just days away from the premiere of Star Trek Picard, the 7th live-action TV series in the Star Trek franchise. 7th. And I'm so excited. I can't wait. I was watching Star Trek The Next Generation the day the show first aired in 1987. I was watching the first episode the first day it aired. So I've been a fan of The Next Generation since the get-go. The original series premiered 10 years before my birth. I was born in 76. The show premiered in 66. So I did grow up watching reruns of the original series. I watched the original series before I watched The Next Generation because I grew up with those reruns. And I watched Star Trek 2, Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4 before The Next Generation. So I was already a Star Trek fan when The Next Generation premiered, but Star Trek The Next Generation was the first Star Trek series of my lifetime. And I've been a huge Star Trek fan ever since. So I know these ranking videos are very popular. I know when I do these ranking videos, a lot of people like to see them. So I thought this week we'll do 2 ranking videos. The first one that you're watching now, we're going to do my favorite, least to best, least favorite to favorite Star Trek TV series. Tomorrow, we'll do Star Trek movies. So here we go. From least favorite to favorite, this is where I rank the Star Trek TV series, not including Picard, which has not premiered yet. All right, coming in at number 6, my least favorite of all the Star Trek shows. And I got to say, the gap between 6 and 5 is a pretty big gap. Like, this is my least favorite by a wide margin. But my least favorite Star Trek series is, without question, Star Trek Voyager. It was the 4th series in the franchise. And without question, my least favorite. I've grown to appreciate the show more. For a long time, I said, I don't like Star Trek Voyager. I don't like it. Well, over the years, I came to have a greater appreciation for it because for a while there, it's the only Star Trek series I ever bailed out on. Every Star Trek show, I watched every episode. Every episode. Voyager, somewhere around season 5, I'm like, I'm out. I've tried. I can't do it. So, I didn't see most of season 6, most of season 7, and parts of season 5. So there's a lot of episodes of Voyager I've still never seen. So during the period of time when there was no Star Trek on the air, I kind of started watching these reruns on Spike TV because this was literally the only Star Trek series that I could tune into and see a brand new episode that I had never seen before because it's the only Star Trek series I never completed. One of the reasons I have a problem with this show is it really never lived up to its potential. It was a show about a crew lost in space with no access to star bases, yet it never felt like they were in any more danger. The ship always looked pristine. It would take a beating one week. The aliens would fire on it, and it would get hit with a barrage of photon torpedoes, and we know they didn't have a starbase to go to for repairs. But the next week, it was like nothing ever happened. They were fine. I always thought this show would be better if it was more serialized, and if we actually saw lasting impact to the dangers they faced. I thought it would have been better if crew members died, because the crew, basically makes it out intact from year 1 to year 7. And you never felt the danger. These were a crew that was truly at the final frontier. They were separated from Starfleet, separated from backup, and we never saw that danger. And also, the final episode, I felt, really let the series down because the final episode was, spoiler alert, final episode is they get home. They get home in the final episode. And that leaves out the best part of the story. Because while this show was on the air, Deep Space Nine was on the air, and a war broke out in the Alpha Quadrant. The Alpha Quadrant on Deep Space Nine went to war. And they missed the war. They were on the other side of the galaxy. They missed the war. So when they got back, I wanted to see their readjustment. These guys, it's 7 seasons. They got back in the final episode of the 7th season. They should have got home in the 6th season finale or the 7th season premiere. They should have gotten home. They should have had an entire season about these guys readjusting to life in the Alpha Quadrant. What happens when you're gone and life goes on in your world without you? People get that, boyfriends, husbands get remarried because they think you're gone. They think you're deceased. People went to war. Family members you left behind, a war happened, they might have died, and you missed it because you missed the war. You could have done easily 22 episodes just about them finding their place in the world they left behind. And the writers really dropped the ball by having them get home in the final episode and not earlier so they could explore those stories. So this is my least favorite. It's also a show I think would be awesome if they did a reboot. Because of the movies, we have the Kelvin timeline, which is a completely alternate timeline where the events of the Prime timeline and the events of the Kelvin timeline are totally separate. So I wouldn't mind seeing a Star Trek Voyager Kelvin timeline series that basically takes the premise of Voyager but does it a little bit better and really explores what it would be like to be lost in space. I think that would be a cool show. It'll never happen, but I think that would be a cool show. Anyway, least favorite Star Trek, number 6, Star Trek Voyager. My number 5 show is number 5 by much higher. I like this show. I like this show a lot. And it's not my least favorite because it wasn't good. It's my least favorite because just the other ones were better. But coming in at number 5 is Star Trek Enterprise. This was the first prequel series to Star Trek. Wouldn't be the last. And Scott Bakula, Quantum Leap. Man, you got to pick a captain for a Star Trek series. You're not going to do much better than Scott Bakula, because Scott Bakula already had the love of the sci-fi fans because of Quantum Leap. He's a great actor. They put together a great cast. This entire cast is terrific. Now, season 1 and 2 were good. Solid. Good, solid efforts. But it was in season 3 that this show really came to life. That was when they really adopted serialized storytelling, and they basically took a page out of 24. They did 24 episodes that told one single story, and it was the story of a war with a species called the Xindi. And the Xindi War arc is really the best season of Star Trek Enterprise. Season 4 was also really good. Season 4 really started to kind of play into the prequel to the original series side of things. But they never topped the Xindi War. Season 3 was amazing. But all in all, this was a good show. Now, here's where things get a little weird. That was my number 5. But my number 4 could easily be my number 3. And the only reason it's not is number of episodes. Number of episodes. Let me explain. Well, coming in at number 4, the latest Star Trek spinoff, Star Trek Discovery, currently going into its 3rd season. Just wrapped up season 2 earlier last year. It wrapped up season 2. And the show's really, really good. It's really well written. And I always say it is one of the most consistently well-written Star Trek shows. What I mean by that is, as good as some of the other spin-offs are, they're hit or miss. You'll get an episode that is fantastic, followed up by a kind of bland episode. Like, let's take The Next Generation, for example. You'll get an episode of Next Generation like The Best of Both Worlds, or Yesterday's Enterprise, or, those are considered really good episodes. But for every one of those, there might be 2 like bland or dull episodes like The Masterpiece Society, or a really bad episode like Code of Honor. The consistency isn't there. It's good, but it's not consistent. This show is extremely consistent. Now, here's where it gets weird. Because it's a show on a streaming service, there's less episodes per season. They've only done about 15 episodes a year, so there's roughly 30 episodes of Discovery. That's it. There's only 30 episodes. But of those 30 episodes, I would say 28 of them are really good. And like 2 of them are disappointing. The 2nd season finale was a 2-parter. The finale of season 2, 2-part episode, and it kind of dropped the ball. It didn't stick the landing. The whole season was good until that finale, and then it didn't stick the landing. So the finale of season 2 was pretty weak. But just about every episode of season 1 was phenomenal. and most of season 2 was phenomenal. So, you are looking at about roughly 30 episodes and maybe like 2 that were kind of weak. That's a good consistency right there. So that is my number 4, but it could be my number 3 because it's better written consistently than what I have at number 3. But number 3's got a lot more episodes. Coming in at number 3, Star Trek The Next Generation. I love Star Trek The Next Generation, but like I said, it's a wildly inconsistent show. There's great episodes, there's bad episodes. But there's 178 episodes. And if I took all 178 episodes and lined up the really good ones and said, okay, how many of these are excellent? There's probably more than 30. And Discovery, while it's more consistently well written, only has about 30 episodes. So therefore, just basic math, there's more good episodes of Next Generation than there are of Discovery. But that's only really because there's 178 episodes of this and 30 of this. So by numbers, this has to be my number 3. But I gotta tell you, once Discovery has a couple more seasons under its belt, if it keeps up the quality that it has had, this could easily displace Next Generation and become my number 3 favorite show. And Next Generation could slip to number 4. But we gotta get a couple more seasons of Discovery and see if the quality holds up as it did in the first 2 seasons. So for now, Discovery is number 4, Next Generation is number 3, but give it a couple of years and they could flip-flop. All right, my number 2 Star Trek series is the original series, the one that started it all. My favorite captain is Captain James T. Kirk over there. I love Captain Kirk. I love the original series. This show was amazing. It's the show that started it all. There would be no Star Trek if it wasn't for the original series. And I'm going to tell you something. When I say the original series, I don't just mean seasons 1, 2, and 3. I also mean the animated series. I know some people, when they do these rankings, they include the animated series as a separate series. I don't see it that way. To me, this is year 4 of this. We had the same characters, written by a lot of the same writers. Writers who wrote for the original series came back and wrote for the animated series. So for me, this is an extension of this. So original and animated are kind of joined in my mind. They're kind of inseparable. This is season 4 of the original series in my mind. So the original series is my number 2. Only one show left, so I guess you know what my number 1 is. Number 1, my favorite Star Trek series, without question, without fail, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Not only is Star Trek Deep Space Nine my favorite Star Trek TV series, it's my favorite TV series of all time. It's not just my favorite Star Trek, it's my favorite TV series. This show was, until Discovery, the most consistently well-written series in Star Trek history. There are bad episodes like Prophet and Lace where Quark has a sex change. That's a terrible episode. Or a lot of people don't like the Alan Moraine episode. I have a weakness for it. I kind of like it. But this show, with the story of the Founders, the Changelings, the Dominion War, so much good stuff. And it just... This is really as good as Star Trek can get, quality-wise, consistency-wise. I love this show. I have so much love for this show. And I can't say enough about it. And if you're a fan of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, also be sure to check out the new documentary that came out this year, What We Left Behind. It's really, if you're a Deep Space Nine fan, you got to watch that. But this is far and away my favorite Star Trek series. Bar none. So, I love this show so much, I named my daughter after one of the characters. My daughter, Kira, named after the first officer of Deep Space Nine, Major Kira Nerys. Love the show. So anyway, there we go. Least to favorite. That's how I would rank the Star Trek TV series. Come back tomorrow. We'll do the movies. Can't wait for Picard this Thursday. So excited. Keep wearing those pajamas.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
With the plastic feet.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Tell everyone you meet.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
With the back door flap.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
Don't open, it's a trap.
Oh no!
It's a trap. Some people call them PJs. Some people call them jammies. They can come embroidered with big money and no whammies. They can have 100 tiny commander pajamas. But no matter how they look, just keep on wearing those pajamas.
Keep on wearing those pajamas. Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now we're having fun.
Keep wearing those pajamas.
And now the song is done.